Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another Homeschool Haven Spotlight. My name is Stephanie, and today we're spotlighting parent Rhianna that Michelle and I have been able to communicate with through Facebook Messenger over the last few weeks. And Rhianna has three awesome kids. She's got a fourth grader at home, a second grader at home, and a kindergartner at home this year, and this is her first year of homeschooling. She does have an elementary and early childhood education degree, and is just feeling a little out of her element with her fourth grader. So that's kind of where we're going to focus today with this spotlight and where our conversation gravitated towards. And it's just in that fourth grade, just some fourth grade goodies and fourth grade goodness that we kind of had exchanging this week. So three things with Rhianna's fourth grader that we're going to kind of hit on today. First of all, Rhianna, when you were having this exchange with us about writing was a big one that came up. Rhianna's son has dysgraphia, and creating a pleasant experience with writing and where to meet him with his, Rhianna was just sharing, I want to meet him where he's capable of, but I want to make sure he's not regressing. I understand that we live in the digital age and that, he's going to do a lot of typing, but I still feel like, being able to communicate through writing is important. And you were just saying so many wise, wonderful things and saying, I try to make sure we get to writing almost every day, and we have certain writing exercises that we're doing and making that happen. And as you were writing and as I had an exchange with Michelle, I was like, I don't know what to say because I feel like she's doing fantastic, and that's the biggest thing that I want to let her know in this spotlight is like, you're doing it, just keep going, that you are totally on the right path for these things. And so and Michelle totally agreed. She's like, yeah, she sounds like she's really got a good idea of how what to expect and how to just have a little bit going and just to not expect too much. But sometimes you just need to hear that as a homeschool parent, like you're doing it and you're at home and you're wondering. It puts you in the place of wondering if I'm doing it right more than just about anything else I've experienced in life, right? And you're working with your kids' education that's so important to you. And what Michelle and I were hearing with everything that you shared with us, Rhianna, was like, dead on. Like, you're doing fantastic. So that's our biggest thing that we want to let you know is all those exchanges and things that you said that you were doing with him sound really, really great. I do not have a child with a writing disability, but I do have a child with a reading disability. And something that I have found with her is that, like, it's so hard to trust in myself over being consistent over these handful of things. But now that we're several years down the road into it, I'm like, you know what? It just took longer for us to see the results that we wanted. And but she's doing fantastic. And that is, you had mentioned like, oh, I feel like he's regressed a little bit since he was in public school because now he's doing it for me and all of that. I think that totally makes sense. Like, you guys are both in a new stressful situation. You're figuring each other out. You're having a lot happen. Those skills are gonna come back, and they're there. It's just helping them to come free during a time that's a lot of change for both of you. And I found that with my oldest, who has struggled with writing the most, actually, that there was just, you're learning a lot as a parent in terms of these expectations and creating that. And so anyways, mainly I just want you to know that you're doing great. And here's two tips that Michelle and I would add that might be helpful. I don't know. One is just to Google the 4-square method of writing. You've probably used this. You might even already know what I'm talking about, but the 4-square method of writing. It's a really simple little platform, or a simple little graphic organizer that we thought, this might be, if you're just trying to set up a specific expectation of a few things with him each week of what he's trying to accomplish, this might be one of them where it's like, okay, this will help him create a paragraph every week and let him do that, like based on something that he read. You said he really loves to read and he's a great reader. To create one of those 1 week and maybe the next week then turn it into the actual paragraph or something. But this might be a little tool that helps you. It often is catered to the younger elementary school kids. I used it in my 5th grade classroom though, and I tend to use it in that K through 6 time. But I was really grateful when I talked with Michelle. She's like, she's the one that had talked about the 4-square method of writing. And then this second one is also one that I use. Michelle is so fantastic. She says something that she's done, and I've done this too when my kids are struggling with writing, is let them dictate to you what they want to say every now and then, and you type it out. And then they get to have that successful experience with like, look what was in your brain that got here. Because it sounds like, I don't know a ton about dysgraphia yet. I don't. But it sounds like if he's able to read on level, that it's that, and that if he's speaking fine, that it's something that happens from brain to pencil that's happening there. But maybe brain to mouth to your fingers or your pencil might be something that helps build a little bit of success for him every now and then. And that's something that I have found with my kids, that that when they've struggled with that. And with my oldest, when Michelle said this, I was like, oh my goodness, I totally did that with my oldest. I forgot that when she was really struggling, we would end up having her tell me stories while we wrote them out. And then she would illustrate it, or then she'd go and copy work it out. And that gave her a successful opportunity with writing, in addition to maybe some of the other things that we either laid back off of or that were happening, that these might, anyways. We had thought maybe this Foursquare method or this dictation method might be something to throw in there to mix it up, to help with that. But you're doing great. Just pick a handful of things to be consistent at with him, and let that consistency unfold before you in a beautiful way, and trust yourself that that's going to happen. So that would be our feedback with the writing there. So your second thing you had said about your fourth grader is finding age-appropriate content, because he's at a higher reading level. And so you want to find stuff that's age-appropriate for that. So we're also going to put some of our favorite reading lists and reading people in the comments here. And that should hopefully give you a little bit of something to go from, because we can't read everything. We can't keep up with everything. And we obviously don't want our kids reading stuff that's beyond them. And that age-appropriate word is a really important word. And so we're going to put a few of our favorite reading list websites down here, and a few of our favorite reading list books. And maybe these will help you a little bit. But if they overwhelm you and if they're too much, we don't want to do that to you either. So be mindful of that. Sometimes I worry as we're offering a resource or something that we've used that's like, oh, that's your signal for like, no, this isn't for me. All right, so your third thing was, what should a fourth grader accomplish in general? So this is Stephanie's, I don't know what we should call this, philosophy that's developed over time. With my kids, something that, and maybe you're experiencing this a little bit, like you have this education background and you've had some experience like building a curriculum for a classroom and making it work from there. You start from all these little standards and you create these wonderful experiences from that. And there's so many things that you can check off and make happen and really fit into the day. And I had so many people say, oh, since you have that background of education, you're totally going to be able to do this for your kids. And yet I was tripping up over myself all the time when I brought them home, right? And I think part of the reason why is because I was trying to recreate the classroom in our homeschool, and in terms of having this checklist of standards in my mind for my kids, and it just didn't fit in that capacity. It didn't work for me. And so this is kind of what has developed for me, because when I was in the classroom, what these kids should accomplish by the end of the year was just so very detailed, checked off and written out and put into these little categories all throughout my day. And this is where I've come to for myself as here at home, that getting through 3/4 of on-level math each year is something that my kids got to accomplish. We've got to, whatever you've picked for fourth grade math, get, at about 3/4 of the way through that, you will have gotten through plenty enough to have done because even in the public school, we never got all the way through the book. That doesn't happen. It's very rare, or through through those things. And I've talked to several teachers to verify that, because it has been several years since I've been there. And there's a handful of curriculums that they're like, yeah, no, we can get through these, but a lot of times you don't get through everything. And so that's been for me. Like, as far as what my kid's going to accomplish this year, we're going to try and get through all of that math. And some years it's always between 3/4 and finish with math, okay? And then I've come down to this reading, writing, arithmetic kind of idea. I want you to be reading on grade level, and it's easy, again, to compartmentalize that into, we need to know summary, we need to know plot, we need to know how to inference, we need to know how to do all these things, and turn that into this list of things that my kid needs to do by the end of the year. But if my child is reading at the grade level that they are personally capable of, then that is a huge success for me, and that's what we've accomplished for the year. And then their writing. Their writing is something that's an experience that comes off of that reading, and we've kind of hit on writing here, what that looks like. And anyways, so I don't know if that helps or puts your mind at ease. I just feel like when I do go out and do those searches of what should my 6th grader know by the end of the year, or my 4th grader, or my kindergartner, I end up with all these things, and I just go, oh, somebody, dig me a hole to go ostrich on the world, and I'm going to disappear now. So this has kind of become my thing, is math has to happen. Reading, lots of rich reading experiences and having lots of experiences with reading is going to allow them to adapt to whatever learning format they are in the future. And my kids have been in the public school system, and we've transitioned. We did a few years at home, needed to go back to the public school, came back to homeschool. We've done most of ours homeschooling, but with this philosophy in mind, they transitioned. Yes, there's going to be holes. There's no way to avoid some sort of a hole, but there's no way to avoid a hole from 4th grade to 5th grade in the same school either, because we're all different teachers, all different humans. But they can adapt if they have this basic skill set of their math is, 3/4 to all the way done, and they're reading on level, that they can pick up these other words or vocabulary that they might have missed with me or another teacher or somewhere in between there. Does that make sense? And then with the writing, I find that if by the end of, in that 7th-ish, 8th grade year, by the end of elementary, if they can really get down a solid paragraph writing, and maybe they've done a paper or two, and then they get into those 7th, 8th, 9th grade years where they're really doing a lot more essay work and stuff. But that's kind of with writing that I overcomplicated writing a lot with my oldest. It was like, oh, she needs to have more ideas, and she needs to be more creative, and we need to make more of this. And we're not doing the writing thing. Writing just was always overwhelming me, and it was so big, and I wasn't doing it right. And now here she is, several years down the road, and I feel like because she could read well, and because we got, basic sentences and basic paragraphs down, now that she's writing regular papers for other teachers and things, she does, I have her do one language arts class online with, because I wanted her to have the experience of writing papers for others that they were checking in on regularly. And she does that, and it creates that for her, and she's doing just fine. So I hope that helps. That's, the 4th grade, what to accomplish according to Stephanie. So take it with whatever you would like there, but you're doing great. That's the main thing that I wanted to tell you. I think you mainly just, sometimes we just need to hear, like, awesome, high five, Rhianna. Digital high five. You're doing great. So thanks for being a Parent Spotlight. For any of you that are listening to the end of this, the way Parent Spotlights work, come on over to homeschoolhaven.space. That's the easiest way to get over to us. You can submit through Facebook is where we often do them. We're going to be ready for another round here in a few weeks probably, where we just say, hey, we're ready for a handful of people if you want to be a spotlight. It's just an exchange that Michelle and I have with you via Facebook Messenger, and then we put together a little video like this. And it's free of charge. It's something we're just doing for these homeschool parents these first few years. We know what it's like to be there in those first few years of space, and we want to help you through that and make it feel a little bit more peaceful. So let us know. Come on over and have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.